Hello everybody, welcome back to Across the Obelisk. We are going to be playing with Nenukil and the Holy Thorns build, which is probably obvious if you saw the title already. First I'm going to go over some perks, then we'll go over our deck builds as we go through each act. I'm not going to show every fight because that would take forever, and I will highlight all the fights that were difficult or important, and also all the card choices that I made that I think were impactful to the run. Getting into the perks now, though, we have Heiner up front. Heiner's going to be providing a lot of the block on our team. Well, actually, there's going to be a lot of just block on our team in general, but he is our frontliner, so we are investing full tanky stats because we are not going to go super fast. Full block, we're going to get the Fortify perk on not just Heiner, but Bree and Nenukil too, so that blunt damage deals more per Fortify charge, because we're getting a lot of Fortify stacks with Heiner. One more Thorns shards, of course, and then we have Heiner, Bree, and Nenukil all have Thorns on this hero deal holy damage. That'll come up later, but we are also giving Heiner Sanctify charges, mainly so that Sanctify on enemies reduce holy resistance by 1.5% per charge, because that is the way to get the most damage out of Thorns. Thorns doesn't get modified in any other way. Next, we have the Queen of Thorns herself, Bree. Bree has a little bit of tanky stats, could probably rearrange these stats a little bit. We are making sure that she applies more vulnerable. I wish I could put these in the block spot, but I can't because this is up here, so you need one more up here for the perks, meaning I can't go full block. Holy Thorns, like I said, Bree with the Fortify stacks. We are also making sure that she applies as much powerful as possible. All of our heroes, Bree, Laia, and Nenukil, are all getting 1 Inspire on their first turn. This will help them draw more on their second turn when we're not providing Inspire to people, which we might not be able to very well. We probably could have opted in for Inspire maximum charges on this hero are 1, but draws 2 instead. That probably would have been better for at least 2 of our characters. You could definitely do that if you wanted to and be a bit more efficient that way. Next up, we have Laia. Laia is going to be responsible for applying a lot of Sanctify charges. It is a little bit difficult to do that going with her attack build. I am going to be having her do a little bit of carrying as well as Thorns on heroes. Do not lose charges when hit. It is maybe a little bit awkward having her not deal the holy damage since she's a holy paladin, but it's kind of funny. Going with the max burn charges and going burn on this hero increases speed by 1 per 8 charges and instead reduces fire resistance by 0.3% per charge because we want her to have a lot of fire on herself and not get too destroyed by it going through the axe. The speed up is also helpful later on. We also have powerful maximum charges on this hero increased by 2. We probably will get there pretty often. Then it will reduce by 1 per turn, so Bree can keep her topped up on powerful throughout long fights, because fights are going to be taking a while since we're going Thorns. Next up, we got the holy damage. We have max Sanctify charges, because she's applying our Sanctify charges, and a little bit more Bless, since she can apply Bless. Last up, we have Nenukil, the Dwarf of the Hour. Nenukil has a little bit of money, because I didn't know what else to do with it. We have full blunt charges, because blunt damage is going to be what we're doing with his level 3 passive, which gives him a blunt damage card every time you play a defense. Very fun card. With that, we also apply fire for all of our Vanish cards. It's an XX card, which is pretty good. So I'm going to be having him apply maximum fire burn charges. That way we can have things like Holy Fire do a lot more damage throughout the run. That's really the main game plan. It also just will do some passive damage over time, and we are definitely a damage over time team. So with that being said, let's get into the run proper. It is pre-recorded. Perks are also in the description if you want to see them. Here is our town and our deck list. So for Heiner, we didn't bring a ton of money, so we couldn't go all out, but we got a little bit of divinations, keeping our helping hands. We kept barbed wire on both Heiner and Bree. Those are the important parts, as well as piercing howls on Bree. Dawn's Light, anything that applies Sanctify really is what I was going for on Laia, as well as keeping Inner Fires for the powerful charges. And then we have Caltrops. Caltrops is going to be doing a lot for us. I just realized I don't have music playing. Nenukil can apply block to the whole team with Caltrops later on. I didn't invest in it because I didn't bring a ton of money early, because I was more invested in resistances and other things. Honestly, I don't think we really need it, so I'm just letting that go. Alright, first fight here. We're going to struggle to apply Sanctify, honestly, for some time. We picked up Sunbeam, which will eventually be able to apply Sanctify charges as well once we upgrade it. But for now, it won't. I just realized that I didn't have the Inspire perk on Heiner there. And yeah, Battle Shout, big card for Bree, keeps us from being slowed down too much. That said, didn't really help us win any speed ties round 2. The Sanctify is going to be our main way of healing up our heroes as well, since we will be taking damage, especially early on, since we're not going before all the enemies and we can't get our block up all the time. But as you can see, enemies die easily to the Holy Thorns. I will slow down the fights on more difficult fights coming up. So we get the pig, we get the rope, we do this fight. I do want to get the money, so we finish it off without too much trouble. The sheep kind of kills themselves. You see they have massive AoE attacks, which hits all of our thorns and all our heroes, so it's great for us. We get set up, we have a flash on Laia. I thought that maybe later on I would draw with flash. Sometimes it's nice to mix it a spell, but it's not too big of a deal. We do have to jump into the hatch. Unfortunately, we get 3 broken bones. But we have the rope for the pig, so we tie up the pigs, we do the pig fight. I opt to do this Armageddon fight, which I'm going to show here just because it was a little bit difficult. But I also wanted to show that you could potentially get away with fights like these. The reason I did Armageddon is because it allowed us to remove 2 cards. So even if all of our heroes die but 1, I knew that I'd be able to get rid of the Death Swords that were in our decks, and then I'd be able to get rid of the injury that we picked up going into the hatch on all our heroes. So I thought this was very much worth the risk if we could get it going. Plus it was early on enough in the run that I wasn't too attached yet. I was okay if the run lost here. Heiner does die early on. Armageddons are a lot to take, but thankfully we have 3 of our heroes survive. And it is the ones who will be doing the most of the damage, not most of the block. But that is okay. Here, I kept a Burning Shot and a Gunshot in Nenukil's starting deck, largely because I didn't really have much money to work with, again. And then Laia goes down, so it's getting a little bit tense, but thankfully our 2 heroes with the most thorns are up. And we should be able to survive with the amount of block that they're applying. We got 100 block on Nenukil, the farmer gets himself killed, thankfully not like dispelling the whole team or anything like that. And the Armageddon is making it so that the wolf at least has an extra attack to hit us. So 2 of our heroes live, 2 of them die, but like I said, we're getting rid of the Death Stores. Pick up Repair Armor, because Repair Armors are going to be better for us than the, what's it called? Other stuff later on. Here I get rid of Intimidate, because I didn't think I needed the extra vulnerable. We pick up the Dark Miasma because of the tied up pig. We are able to throw him in, so we get a boon in our deck that gives us energy and powerful as we go through. I pick up another purple Repair Armor, which I think is kind of nice, and I get a free Deflect on Nenukil. It's just more block on him. We are going to be having his starting card apply Taunt to him later on. It's one of the reasons I think Nenukil Thorns is kind of fun. Scouts in general have the best way to apply Thorns to themselves, not necessarily the whole team, although Caltrops kind of changes that, the way that it's done now. But Nenukil can apply Thorns to himself with Stone Skin, which does less per Stone Skin card right now, but can be overcharged. Anyways, I think they made Stone Skin worse, to be honest, at least for honestly, even for Nenukil's build. Because you want to play as many as possible, since you want to be playing a defense card to get your attack cards later on. And that means you don't want to be spending energy on overcharges with Stone Skin. So really they just made Stone Skin do less thorns per charge, which is a bit of a shame. We are able to protect Laia here. Belfior isn't too bad, though you can see one more round and we'd be in some serious trouble. We need more block for sure. But thankfully he has a lot of AoE attacks, so our Thorns on everybody is getting him down eventually. Our Sanctify isn't doing too much yet, but it does keep us healing a tiny bit throughout these fights. And actually I think Laia could potentially, no, she can't finish him off. Jeez. Thankfully nobody goes down. We were able to keep everybody alive. It wasn't too tough of a fight. We pick up Dispel because I was realizing that our team is very weak to that. I don't want to make any changes on this team, since I like the amount of Thorns that we could apply with everybody. Everybody here can apply a ton of Thorns. We get the level up on Bree at least with defensive strategy, so now she's going to be able to provide block to the whole team. Heiner can provide, Bree and Heiner have like some of the best enchantments for providing block to the entire team, at least at level 2. So it's really nice to have them early. We are countered a little bit by a slime here. But here we apply Taunt to Nenukil because I figured he had a lot of block, and he also is applying Reinforce to himself with the Stone Skin, so he can take some physical damage if we do end up getting it, and then Heiner can block for him later on this next turn. It's a little bit risky because a lot of the enemies targeting him do a ton of damage, but we have enough staggered speed that we're surviving. The one problem is that the slime will get rid of your block, so slimes are a little bit of a pain that way. Like I said, we have the Dispel here. I do plan to upgrade it later so that we can make sure we're keeping on top of things like Poison or Burn or just anything that's giving us too much damage over time, since we do have to sustain these fights for a few rounds at the very least. But Bree's put a ton of thorns on herself. Thanks to Caltrops, we're actually able to apply a ton of thorns to the entire team. I figured Laia would have the least amount of thorns, which is why I had her give the thorns does not get purged, or it doesn't get reduced when it gets hit. Thorns can always be purged. There is no such thing as non-purging thorns, which is a real pain. Makes it so it's hard to do just retaliation damage as a run. I pick up Purple Foresight here, which is a bit of a mistake. I figured Laia could turn it into other damage. I pick up Steel Forge on Heiner, best block card in the game. We're going to go Excalibur on Laia. I'm not going all into Purification because I think Excalibur is going to be the way to go for taking out priority targets that could ruin our team. Then we pick up Proximity Mines, which adds a Thorns charge. It also stays in the deck, so we could add Thorns charges to everybody, and everybody is at least capable of applying Thorns, so we won't be doing it too much with Laia. Next fight here wasn't too much to show. We are able to take the Heavenly Armaments, and without too much trouble, we just get some extra money off of it. So I was getting lucky with the amount of money we were getting offered for every fight. And taking the Corruptors wasn't too much of a challenge for this team, because we could kind of just soak up everything. The only scary parts was like when we had to do Armageddon, but it was a calculated risk and it paid off. I do like drawing Nenukil's, his starting card later, since scouts only have one taunt card and it's in Nenukil's starting card. That way he can provide a little bit more block to himself and also have a lot more thorns and make enemies do a ton more damage. Now, we are going to be taunting the extra taunt that Yogur applies, but I was hoping Nenukil could just deal with it. Unfortunately, the wolf kind of ruins a lot of the spellcasting wolf kind of ruins a lot of our plays here, because they can dispel and purge some of our buffs here, which makes this fight a little bit more difficult than I had originally anticipated. There's the purge, so we lose our thorns, so in all honesty, I should have been prioritizing the Mage Wolf there with all of our damage, which I wasn't, and that's just a mistake on my part because we got set back a lot on our thorns here. You can see everybody was at like 30s before, and now we're at like 8. We're all in the single digits. So, made this fight a lot harder than it needed to be, and the bleed is stacking up, and the taunt on Nenukil is going to get him killed, so yeah. Went a little bit too slow, didn't prioritize the right targets, and paid for it with Nenukil's life. I figured I would still be able to win though, and I didn't think it would hurt my chances too much for fighting Yelmer. We do have another taunt on us though, thanks to Yogur there, but we are able to dispel the bleed. It's one of the reasons Dispel is really good. Yogur is he's eventually gonna die. Or is it Yager? I don't know. I've had people disagree with how I pronounce it, but it's fine. Yogur, Yager. You know, he's kind of like yogurt. He's a big old werewolf yogurt. If we had drawn Steel Forge earlier as well, we would have had more than enough block to probably survive a lot more of these hits that we were taking. Unfortunately, we did not get it until very late in these rounds, and as a consequence, we ended up dying. The assassins, though, aren't too much trouble, and we had enough thorns to eventually just have the AoE hits that Yogur was doing kill himself. Gold Ring is a nice pickup here. It's just extra damage on Laia. It's also good resistances and HP. Bandages is going to be nice for recovering HP fight to fight, because I noticed we were having trouble. War Banner is also pretty good, but I didn't think I needed the extra powerful. It wasn't really how we were winning most of the time, since Thorns damage was the main problem. I opt to take out the Tree's Guardians, because after the death, I don't know, I was just a little bit worried about this fight, and I figured if we could take out the Guardians, we'd be in really good shape. And so we are. Not having to deal with the Dryad and their heals is a nice thing, and we wouldn't have been able to take out the Dryad very fast, because we didn't really have targeting cards in our carry's deck. So, I think we made the right call here. in having the option to take them out. Bree is very nice for that. Playing into the tree's thorns doesn't matter too much for us since we're not hitting all the time. And we're not hitting that much even when we do attack with Laia. Like, she just doesn't have that many cards to hit with. Plus, we can provide a ton of block for her. And we do draw the Steel Forge early on, so now we can make sure that we're blocked for the entire fight. After we drew Steel Forge, I knew it was pretty much just a matter of time. Moonbeam is what I'm hoping will just destroy the tree, since we... he attacks all of us 3 times. I know he applies Sanctify, so he does heal a little bit off of it. But the Shuriken just does a lot, and yeah, you can see the holy damage was enough to get him gone there. Pulverize I think about for a bit, because I think that Crack could be something that we apply a lot of later, even though I didn't invest into it, but I decided not to go for it. Shadow Step I pick up, because I think maybe the Stealth would be useful, the Energize would be good for longer fights as well. Shield of Thorns is something I'm very interested in. I take it off Rocket Boots, because we aren't going the fast strategy on Nenukil. And I pick up the what's it called thing? The Regen and Thorns every turn on Laia as an accessory. Though here I find Butcher's Block, we also find Golden Cross. Golden Cross has more Sanctify charges, but I'll show what I bought right after I show off these decks. So we pick up an Entrench here. I'm really hoping for upgrades later. I didn't have enough money to get all the upgrades. I take out a guard. We make sure all our repair armors are free. We take out some intercepts. And for Bree, we have punches in the deck primarily so that we can heal off of the Sanctify. And we make sure our Holy Slashes are upgraded. We want 2 that provide Zeal to that target. Targeting is nice. We put a Torment of Thorns in Laia's deck. And that's going to be because she's actually getting a fair amount of Thorns. We upgrade 2 Caltrops to give block, because I did think that we needed extra block on the entire team. So Caltrop's going to do nice work for us there. We also have Stone Skins upgraded. One of them provides Fortify. One of them provides, what's it called? Something else. We make sure we change our Sunbeam over there to the Sanctify version. I noticed that as I was showing off the decks that I did that wrong. We take Butcher's Block on Laia. Butcher's Block is going to give us extra draw every single turn. And we are going to go forward towards the bottom path here, because yes, I am taking Energy Shield. You saw that right. The card that makes it, or the item that makes it so that you have less energy every single turn. And here we do get our free upgrade as well. Really lucky spot for me. Didn't know that was coming. Just purely lucky there. I was hoping it would come at some point in the act. It was nice that it showed up first thing. So now we have Entrenched can provide Fortify for us. We get the money here. I'm skipping ahead a few fights. Nothing was too tricky. So we got inside the temple after paying the felines for the information on the temple. You just go all the way up and down. Or yeah, you go all the way on the lower path. After talking to the felines, and you can go into the temple. Laia will get you in there for free. You don't have to take any wound cards getting in. This fight was the fight right before the treasure room, which has Energy Shield, the coveted item for this run. Because I wanted to make Energy Shield work on a previous challenge run that I was doing, but it was just too bad of an item that I couldn't justify it, which was very sad for me. And I don't think that challenge run was possible regardless, because I was trying to not do any damage directly with any of my cards or any weapons. That said, you can see we still have a problem with statuses. The lack of a cleric that's like dedicated to Dispel is causing problems for us on this team. I would say that was like our main weakness a lot of the time, as well as there's just some specific enemy counters, which I'll get to show off later on. Haha, foreshadowing. This run is probably, like, I wouldn't say Thorns is a particularly good strategy by any stretch. It's definitely one of the more challenging strategies to try to run on Madness 16. It's very possible. Like, it's not too difficult. It's just that you are subject to the enemies attacking you and doing all of their cards, and some enemies can be real jerks, and they can get rid of all your block, they can purge your Thorns, they can deal damage based off your Thorns or your block, and it makes surviving a huge pain. It's one of the reasons that I felt it was necessary to go all in on resistances for Heiner. We get a purple setup for our efforts here, though, even though we have 2 deaths with Nenukil and Heiner. I keep thinking about Carnage because I didn't know if I was going to get the transform damage to Blunt. That would have been great to get on Bree or Heiner at any point. I don't take the Horned Helm there. And here we get Energy Shield. Yeah, plus 15% resistances, -1 speed, -1 energy per turn. And then when you block, you deal 9 holy damage. So this is going all in on the holy damage run. We get a nice pickup with Holy Hammer here, so I can apply extra Sanctify. I thought applying Sanctify was going to be the most important thing. We also get our level ups. Defense Master and Heiner makes all the defense cards cheaper when he draws them. I debate really hard whether I want extra Thorns charges or Tactician. Tactician is just so much better, though, almost in every case, because it lets you play more skills that apply Thorns. So I take the Tactician on Bree, plus we're giving her Energy Shield, so we really just need the extra energy. Zealotry on Laia, so that burn charges on her help her do extra damage, and Mounted Cannon on Nenukil, which is really going to make this run pop off a lot more, because Nenukil will now start dealing a ton of damage. Next fight wasn't too interesting. I'll just show off the card rewards that we got for it. And we got our shop for doing the challenge, which was a purple horned helmet. I thought that was very funny. Laia didn't have any armor that was super useful on her, so I figured maybe we take the horned helmet on her, just have a little bit of extra thorns to start with. She does have a damage card based off of it. You don't want to touch the mural, so we just ignore that. I knew Fred was the answer here all along. We get the Sphinx reward, which unfortunately didn't really have any items that I cared too much about, though I did remember that Heiner applied extra Sanctify charges, and since we're doing damage based off of Thorns, or Holy Thorns, Sanctify is our way of reducing the enemy resistances to that, so I take that Holy Rune over the block charges on Heiner, because I didn't think I needed the extra block with all the block that not Laia, but Nenukil and Bree are going to be providing. Now, this next fight, we cannot do Sub-Zero with a monk. Especially with a dragon and a monk and all these enemies. These enemies are a huge pain. Corrupted monks are probably the bane of any like block run's existence. Especially if you can't kill them too fast, which is often going to be the case, because even if you go like for block damage rather than thorns, you're still running into the problem that a lot of the block cards don't target unless they remove all your block, which is a bit dangerous to do on full block runs, since you're going to be taking a lot of hits most of the time. And the monk, the corrupted monk anyways, he does damage to the entire team based off the block charges, and also applies just a ton of dark to your team. So he'll hit you straight through block and then explode you with with a lot of ferocity. I was going to say with Scourge, but it was the it was actually the mummy here that was providing the Scourge, which was making this fight extra hard. The Scourge makes it so Dark deals plus 10% damage for every charge of Scourge, and they apply like 5 to you if you hit them, so definitely running into a really tight spot here. Just trying not to die. But we had to retry this fight. You can see just how easily the enemy team can take us out there. Dark Explosion does just a ton of damage if you don't put too much block on your team. So the trick is you have to put enough block so that you don't die, but not to like the Dark Explosion, but not so much block that you die to the damage he does to your entire team that goes through block, which is tricky. Yeah, very hard fight to navigate. Probably one of the harder fights in the game to deal with for this sort of team. So, finding out who you need to heal. Having Zeal on Laia gives her extra resistances. It's one of the reasons I put it on her. Trying to make sure she survives and with the right amount of block, since I knew it was coming on the restart here. We do have the weakness from the Death's Door as well, not helping out with our damage too much on Nenukil's part. But we are slowly but surely applying Burn and Sanctify to enemies. The Dragon's a little bit annoying because we won't be able to take him out with the Burn and Sanctify, and he also steals our Thorns charges. Dragons, yeah, this whole team is kind of annoying, but they're not the worst team that we could fight. We're also not drawing Excalibur early, which would have been nice for applying the extra Sanctify and Fire. But the Sanctify charges are getting up there, so I know that we can heal up eventually. The transfer of curses that the monk does is also super annoying, and then he makes it so that the enemies have a double turn. Thankfully, drawing Steel Forge is going to keep us alive here, and the monk doesn't do his damage through block card like in succession, in rapid succession anyway. So at the end of the day, I felt comfortable once we were at this stage. I knew we were probably going to win because Laia's now doing a decent amount of damage. So if we could take out an enemy here, I was fairly confident in our ability to finally pull off the victory. A little bit of a tough fight. It didn't take me that long. It was just the 2 attempts I showed here. The Sub-Zero would have made this probably impossible to do, so I definitely chose right. Just in general, try not to underestimate the amount of damage the monks can do. You can see right there at 170 block, Bree almost just ate it with 1 attack from the monk. If you got up to like even more block, which this team is capable of doing, we could have gone up to like 300 block on single turns on a single hero. That hero would just die. Bree even has some resistances perks, as well as not too terrible armor. Actually, I don't know if Bree's armor is any good, but it's not awful. You can see Nenukil though, it's awkward to have the stone skin with overcharge. I never play it for overcharge unless like I have nothing else to do and I know I'm not playing cards next turn. So I guess never is a strong word, but I rarely play it. We take uproot here for the extra vulnerable. I was feeling a lack of vulnerability on our team, a vulnerable application, and I was a little bit nervous about this fight because I remember this fight could be very difficult. And here I'll show off just what I mean. So round 3, we had Steel Forge up, so I was like, man, surely we're safe. But unfortunately, Steel Forge doesn't proc from his enchantments that he's putting on himself. So we don't get any of the extra block charges when he like hits our whole team from that. It also doesn't deal any Thorns damage to him because it doesn't count like Thorns damage. So you can see right there, Bree, Laia, and Nenukil were all gonna die. So that was not going to be the run, and here's another fight getting to round 3 again, where we don't die to the first attack, but we die to his summons right after the fact. So, and then he summons 2 more guys. So yeah, God, I want to say I was on this fight for like an hour. This fight took me some time. Very, very challenging fight to do with this composition. I think in general, mage-like fights are. We just have problems when enemies deal damage past our block or like aren't really hitting us to deal their damage, which again, those enchantments that he puts on his summons make it so that they deal damage to our block without triggering Thorns or things like Steel Forge. So eventually I was able to find the line on this one though. We did have to be very careful with our taunts. I knew that I didn't want to play the taunt this turn, so I played a taunt on anyone this turn. They would just die, Heiner included. So I needed to make sure I waited on that until we had a little bit more life. So Heiner had taunt on himself, but it wasn't going to be during the boss's turn, so that's why it was safe to apply a taunt to him the previous turn. Then we get Steel Forge. And we are able to take out one of the clones before they go. So we're not dealing with as much damage as we possibly could. Heiner loses almost all of his block, but the Steel Forge does get to proc. And we are not we are not currently dying. However, this is round 3, and round 3, as you know, he likes to do a whole bunch of damage to us. And I think he also heals for a percentage of his health on the second round, which is why like he's at basically full health right now. He heals. Yeah, he heals a ton. Like, if you get him down really low, it's like, it could be like a 500, 600 heal. So, he's a little bit much of a fight, and then he goes fast, so he gets like 2 turns in a row, essentially, but I was able to have Heiner be slower than him this next turn. Largely thanks to all the chill that he's been applying to us. So Heiner was able to provide block in between turns, which kept Laia alive, kept Heiner alive, and made it so that now I felt like being further than I had gotten before in round 4, perhaps there's a chance. I think I needed to take out, honestly, maybe I got to round 4 before, I don't really remember. There was a lot of fights against this guy. I felt like I needed to take out that clone before he got to us. I was able to do that, so we didn't take any extra damage there. And I don't think that the Necromancer is going to heal himself again. At least I don't know if he does. Maybe he does on like round 6 or 7, but I was hoping to kill him before that time. We are getting a lot of burn charges on Laia, but remember, every burn charge we have is going to be extra damage. It's extra 1.5% damage thanks to her passive that I took. So Torment of Thorns is actually ended up being one of our most damaging cards that we have in Laia's deck currently. It does count as an attack, so it procs Excalibur. It was a really fun time trying to use that on Laia. I don't think this is like the strongest Laia carry because we weren't supporting her fully, but the boss does eventually kill himself to the holy damage. He's weak to holy damage, thankfully, so Holy Thorns is probably the best Thorns build to go up against him. And there we get some good cards. Divine Strike upgraded is exactly what we want for Laia. I think Obsidian Dagger should have been taken on Laia in retrospect. We take the Architect's Ring on Bree. It's going to give skill, whenever you play a skill, a random hero gains an Energize and Inspire once per turn. Bree's often playing skills. The reason I think I should have had Obsidian Dagger on Laia is because she's going to be having Divine Strike, which costs a lot, and we just don't have a lot of energy on her. She just is having trouble playing all her cards. So, Act 3 decks, here they are. We have the upgraded Entrench. I didn't change Heiner's deck too much. We just got like rid of more intercepts. I think it was one more intercept. We got rid of intercepts in Bree's deck as well. We got rid of a punch. We got a do-it-yourself. Do-it-yourself is a skill that provides taunt and fortify and block to a hero, so it's going to be cheaper for Bree. It's also a defense card. It's something I was actually like primarily going to be relying on for this run because, again, I thought it was really cool that Scouts could apply more Thorns to themselves, and then you could taunt on a turn where Scout has a ton of block and make sure they're taking the attacks. So we changed Divine Strike to deal damage based off of the Sanctify charges enemies have. We get Holy Fire to deal more damage based off of the burn charges enemies have. We get Caltrops fully upgraded, so we have 4 Caltrops providing block to the whole team. Didn't really think I needed to upgrade Stone Skin. And yeah. From the shop, we couldn't really buy anything. I didn't have enough money. But we are going to be able to go to a pet trainer here, which is very nice. That fight wasn't too difficult. We removed a card, but it saved like a tiny bit of money. We do this extra fight for the merchant, which does give us Garden of Thorns on Heiner. I've been looking for Garden of Thorns. It's nice that showed up a little bit early. We eventually want to make those purple in the last act. We upgrade Champy to be purple so that he'll be providing block for us every single turn and Thorns on the entire team every turn. So we're a lot better set up, at least until we get to the Handshake fight, because there's no way that we're going to be able to kill Handshake before he kills our pets. And then we get another Garden of Thorns. Unfortunately, it's on Laia, and I didn't really know if Laia should be playing non-attack cards, things that affect her Thorns, but I thought maybe if she could double the Thorns on herself, it would help her Torment of Thorns do more damage, so it could potentially be worth it. We take Explosive Shot on Nenukil, because I figure I could have that one be my ranged attack in the deck. It's not very good, but it's okay at a reduced cost of 2. Even then, maybe it's a waste of energy, to be honest, in terms of damage overall, but I thought it was fun to use. I want to try to use the new cards when I can, when I think they potentially should be good. We get rid of Gunshots. We can get rid of our other ranged attacks in Nenukil's decks now. I've been keeping Spike Shields for a while. I don't know that they're that good. We have the Mortal Strike in Laia's deck. We picked that up a little bit earlier. We have that specifically for the Lava Boss here because we're going to be applying a lot of burn, and we don't want the Lava Boss to be healing to full every single turn. So if you put Decay on him, he won't be doing that. It's lucky to get that early. These fights weren't too much of trouble, but I will go over the level up that we got going into the DLC here. Last Guardian for extra Fortify charges and like last second block. Command and Conquer just provides block and mitigate, or heal and mitigate for the whole team. It's really strong, as well as block charges. And then Laia gets her best carry card. We get Repair Kit, which also provides block, regen, and heal for the team. So between Nenukil and Bree, we can actually heal the team fairly well. Here I make a bit of a mistake, and I should have taken the... I thought the screwdriver was actually an accessory. So I knew I was going to be changing out the weapon on Nenukil later on for Lava Axe because I wanted to provide even more burn for Laia. I take the small cannon for the robot. Earlier we took the cannon, or the chassis that gives us extra Thorns charges. So my robot's going to be providing more vulnerable to the front enemy and more Thorns charges to whoever has it. It's going to be very useful. But Screwdriver, I didn't even realize was a weapon. I feel like it should be an accessory, to be honest. That would make it a lot better of a card. We take an extra damage cards for everybody there. You can see what they were. Improved laser for Heiner. I didn't want to have extra rocket boots in the pool here because it would just limit the amount of items we could see. Same with Imperials on Bree, so we could speed up people even faster. And then we take the robot that we created on Nenukil so that he gets the extra Thorns charges, which is going to be very useful on Caltrops. So now Nenukil is getting up to a decent amount of Thorns application for the entire team. So we're at 4 without his enchantment. Once we get to his enchantment, Caltrops is providing 5 to every single person. So actually pretty nice. Bree's deck we've been keeping very cheap on purpose. We need it to be cheap so that she can actually play cards, and she only gets 3 energy a turn, and we're not giving her energy in any other way. Energy shield, very good. I don't know if I pulled up the combat logs. If I didn't, I'm sorry. Energy shield throughout the run did not do much damage at all. It's even if I had invested into the holy damage, the Thorns would have done far more. I mean, you can tell that just by the amount of Thorns that we apply, and Thorns isn't a particularly good strategy. One of the fun things here is we can scavenge up our enchantment since it doesn't disappear in Nenukil's deck, and we can make it so that we have extra Thorns being applied with Bree as well as Nenukil, and potentially Heiner later on. So, fun little thing there. We got Laia's level 4 card, which purges 2, does a whole bunch of damage to all the enemies. I think I'll show a closer look at it a little bit later. For now, though, it is one of the best ways that she can carry hard. We're not going full Laia carry. Again, part of my problem with this run is I was trying to make sure that we killed slow enough that Thorns was doing the damage. Because I wanted this to all be a holy Thorns run, so we weren't trying to go super hard into like faster kills with like more powerful, more like Fury stacks or whatever on Laia. We were really trying to have the Thorns be the carry. We get another Enrage on Bree that will help with her energy problems, especially since it's a skill and can be free if she draws it. In her opening hand, that is. We skip past the next fight. We get a Bouncing Shield on Heiner, a bluff on Laia. Laia with bluffs, very strong. Is an attack, it can be free, it draws her a card, it triggers Excalibur, all that stuff is great. Here we are able to apply at least a little bit of Vulnerable to the Lava Man. I don't think I'm going to be able to kill him very fast, though I do know that if we could provide enough block on Nenukil, we should be safe. Nenukil is thankfully going faster than Ignido next turn. I don't know if Heavenly Justice is the way to go on the first turn, so I play it at the end after I play my attacks with Laia. So next turn I could potentially get a Divine Strike with Heavenly Justice since it does more damage to the entire enemy team based off the amount of energy that you spent to use it. So yeah, Gunshot we still have for some reason. Honestly, we should probably get rid of it. I'm taking out one of the spikes here so I don't take too much damage. Thankfully, Armageddon isn't all going on to one person. We don't have the most Thorns on everybody, but Nenukil is up to 66, which is cool. We overpower there to apply 6 vulnerable charges onto Ignido. We haven't applied fire to him yet, but we are doing that now. We have Purge the Wicked, which I save. I didn't know he was going to be getting more things that I wanted to purge later on, and it wasn't doing so much damage that I thought it would matter. So we wait a little bit on that, even though I know full well he's going to be healing, mainly so that we can play the Decay card. We do have the 4 Decay on him now, so he hopefully won't heal back up to full. We did taunt with Nenukil. He takes it like a champ, takes all that block, and the Ignido does not heal up to full. The 100 Thorns was just doing a massive amount of damage. I think that was like 1,000 damage there. So the build's working out pretty well. Decay is definitely keeping us in this, because believe me, if he did not have Decay on himself, he would not be dying this turn. He would probably go a whole nother turn, because I think he only stops healing between round 3 and 4, and then like sometime later on after that too. So we really need to kill him this round, because on round 5 he will heal himself again. But thankfully we have just enough damage to do that. Take a look at the combat stats there briefly. I'm gonna go back here. Come on, pause it. Oh no. All right, I'm gonna pause it at the right time here. You can just see this glorious kill again with playing Explosive Shot and the Caltrops to get the win. Double Caltrops, easy. So here's a look at our stats so far for that fight. That fight, you can see Nenukil actually did the most damage with the Thorns. Laia was second, doing carry stuff, not doing a ton of damage with Thorns. 1,000 damage with Thorns, pretty nice. Yeah, not too much else to look at there. So, Heiner and Bree also doing some damage with their Thorns, since Ignita does attack the whole team. I get second wind on Laia because I figure I'll need the Dispel later on and potentially the Energize to play Divine Strikes. And here we have Volcanic Axe, which, yes, I wanted to take on Nenukil to apply more burn every time we play a defense card, since we're playing on hit. And then Laia gets the ring that applies powerful and burn charges for her. Unfortunately, Lightbringer isn't going to be a very good card for us because Laia's not applying a ton of Bless. But we do see an Amulet of Thorns in the shop, which is super sweet. It's almost like a running theme that I don't get any Thorns items on Thorns runs, but finally, it kind of works out. I get at least one of them, which is nice, and one of the good ones, too. Here is all our decks, by the way, if you wanted to take a look. I need to change that Enrage over to be Fury, most likely. Not too much has changed. We kind of just edited our deck a tiny bit going in. I got rid of the Gunshot in Nenukil's deck. I made sure Parry is targeting other heroes, so we could provide Fortify to somebody else and potentially get them extra fire or blunt damage. We take out Music Sheet here. I was trying Music Sheet earlier on in order to use the, what's it called, weapon that I had. The, like, whenever you play a book, draw a card and provide Inspire to a random hero. Just doesn't work out too well if you don't have Stanza. We take Amulet of Thorns on Nenukil, so now his Caltrops, if he has his enchantment up, is providing 7 Thorns a turn. First fight wasn't too challenging for us. We get another purple second wind, which is very cool. I take a second Entrench on Heiner because I wasn't sure if I was going to get a Last Stand to make it free later on. I thought that'd be nice. We got a free upgrade as well from the fight, so we get to upgrade some of our purple cards, or our legendary cards here. Garden of Thorns was one of the ones I wanted to upgrade later on. It's also one of the reasons I saved some shards going out into these fights here, because I wanted to make sure I had some. I also knew we were going to the shop, and I was hoping that the VIP card that I picked up earlier would be reducing the cost of that shop, but it doesn't, so I don't know. There's like there's like 2 shops you could potentially use the VIP card on. It annoys me. This fight, heavy weaponry. Oh boy. This is probably the most challenging group of enemies you could fight on a team like this. Double Lancer, Orb Guy, and a Corrupted Monk. You can see we almost had the win here, but the Lancer did damage based on our Thorns. The Monk does damage with our block, and the Orb Guy can get rid of our Fortify. And he also typically goes slower than everybody. So it's a very, very tricky fight. This fight took me probably yet again another hour. I swear, there were like 3 fights that took me like half the time on the entire run. The rest of the fights were not that long. But if you saw my Thorns live stream, you can imagine how long this run probably took me. I think this one was like slightly faster because I had a little bit more damage with Laia. But regardless, this is challenging. You have to provide just the right amount of block and just the right amount of Thorns on yourselves to not die to Gravity Well and the Dark Explosions, plus the Orb, who thankfully doesn't remove our Fortify first turn. But if we apply too many Thorns this turn, so like if I play all the Barbed Wires and like Gardens of Thorns, the Lancers will kill me. They'll just deal too much damage to Bree. So I can't really play Thorns cards, which means like some of the cards I'm drawing in Nenukil's deck are pretty useless. I can taunt here. I can play Parry. This is actually one of the few times that Parry was really good. I play the Caltrops anyways, which I think is maybe a tiny bit of a mistake, but I'm hoping Laia can kill the front guy. I had to do this fight a number of times, so at this point I knew that I would have the damage to kill the front guy if I focused him a little bit with Nenukil, and then I let Laia's over damage do it. The second guy is thankfully not doing damage based on Thorns on this turn. He did it the first turn, but not the second one. So we have one more turn until he's going to do it, which he would do on round 3. I know that for a fact. However, he dies to burn, so we had just enough to take him out. The Monk then can't deal enough damage to our block because we didn't have like an absurd amount of block on our team. And we were finally able to win that fight. My goodness, that was hard. I'd take another do-it-yourself. It's going to provide more taunt and more fortify and more block. It's all the stuff we want. I take Bola just to make sure we have some way to slow down enemies that we really need to. And I RNG manipulate this a little bit until I... you can quit out of this bell, by the way, anytime that you need to. That way you can ensure you get the result that you want. I had to give up some stats on Heiner. So I give him Purple Garden of Thorns. I think I got rid of his speed. Yeah, I got rid of his speed, so he's down to 11 speed instead of 13. And honestly, it's just as well. You'll notice I didn't take the defense card earlier for Heiner, like the one that gives him more fortify and block charges that you can get from the DLC area. That one increases the cost of defense cards in general. So it would mean overall I'd get less block and probably less fortify too. If I took it. So yeah, that item is pretty hard to use if you're not going some sort of jank like Heiner attack build or something. So I kept this nice old like wooden shield. Twins fight can be a little bit difficult for this team, but it's not the worst, honestly, as long as you can set up fast enough with your Thorns, which I was hoping the Purple Garden of Thorns would allow me to do. So that's why I made sure that I got Purple Garden of Thorns at the bell. I wanted Thorns to be good. I wanted to make sure we were getting all the way up there. So I get purple on Laia here, and I have purple on Heiner. I don't think I have purple on anyone else, but Bree has like another one where she like can double it on herself. Heiner's taking all of the damage there. He's got reinforce and a ton of resistances, so even when they do get through his block, his physical resistance is just so high that it's not too big of an issue. If we'd had a resistance armor, it would have been even better. At this point, we have Law of Light on our heroes, though, so we are running into a little bit of trouble. However, if I get one more enchantment, like Proximity Mines, and put it on Heiner, now Heiner can play cards without healing up the enemy. So one of the cool things about Nenukil on the Twins fight is we're able to get rid of extra enchantment if we play our enchantments at the right time. And now that Heiner has Steel Forge, I'm fairly confident we'll survive at least a few more turns, so the enemies, when they hit us, they'll be taking a good amount of damage. Heiner also now gets his Garden of Thorns, and we're at like 200 Thorns on almost everybody. Heiner's sitting there at 172, but he'll get there very soon. We have the vulnerable charges applying at a good rate too. This is probably the time where I should play a few less cards, but I'm trying to get the burn stacks up a little bit higher on the dark twin, so that they can take more damage from Holy Fire on this turn. Both of them are reflecting damage right now. We do need to get rid of the block on the light twin though, because if we don't, he will do a ton of more damage. Thankfully we got him down to where the burn would take out the rest of his block, so he didn't do, his shield slam didn't hit us that hard. And he hit himself very hard for like 1,000 damage right there, which is pretty awesome. So I know that very shortly they'll get themselves killed. I also see that Holy Fire is going to do like 350 damage to the front guy. So we have just enough damage, really. Explosive Shot is actually even enough to finish him off if I play these blasts afterwards. Burn does the word. And yeah, oh my gosh, that's so much damage. We took out like the second twin's entire HP bar there. So Thorns it can work against those guys. You just have to like pace yourself. Make sure you're not taking too much damage. We get our level 5 here, so Burn doesn't deal damage on Laia anymore. She also has extra charges. We get energy refunds on Nenukil. Man, I should have gone slower there. I get a purple Holy Hammer here, so we can apply even more Sanctify charges. We get finally Resistance Armor on Heiner, Reprisal. It also transfers a Curse. I want to take Cloak of Speed on Bree, but I keep with Energy Shield because I am committed now. Cloak of Speed on Bree would have made things probably a lot easier, honestly. God, it would have made things way easier later on. But instead, we're here to suffer and keep Energy Shield. This fight, I slowed that down because this gunner just had it out for Nenukil. I think all but one of his shots hit Nenukil, so he actually pops the Dark Explosion with 5 hits. Nenukil goes down to 13 health. He's not like not tanky, but he doesn't have a great armor. He's got the Thorns armor from Act 1, so I guess I deserve that. We also have the, God, what's it called? Last Hope or whatever, I think is the legendary artifact. It gives us a card, or a choice of 8 cards that all are free, and we throw them into our deck at the beginning of every fight. So that's a fun random one. It's not necessarily really good, but it is fun. And it can be good, like if you get the right cards. Unfortunately, there wasn't too much we were looking for with Nenukil most of the time. I was really hoping that the monk was not going to do damage through block on the very first turn. There was a chance that they didn't. Unfortunately, they ended up doing that, so we'll skip ahead. Nenukil does die. I get another Garden of Thorns option here on Heiner, but I opt for the Torment of Thorns because it's purple. It'll do 1.5 damage, which is probably honestly closer to where it should be anyways because Thorns sucks. I have nothing against Thorns. Totally. No, I genuinely think Thorns is one of the worst strategies in the game, despite how fun it is. But I mean, I like doing challenge runs, so like I don't think I'm the majority here. I think they could buff Thorns quite a bit, and it still would be worse than most of the other strategies you could go for. Here we get rid of Entrench. There wasn't too much more I wanted to get rid of in everybody's decks. I was kind of just tired, didn't want to think too much more. But we do have a lot of upgrades to go through here. So, first upgrade, we changed our setup to yellow. Nenukil was fine on energy. We keep our Massive Spell that we got at the in Act 4. We make sure that it stays in the deck so that we can kind of stay in fights a little bit longer. We upgrade our Push Forward so that it applies Force Fast to the entire team. We upgrade Shield Charge so that it does a little bit more damage. So it does 0.5 damage now, keeps our 3 slow. Make sure Heiner's Divine Strike that we picked up because he has Obsidian Blade. Make sure it's targeting Sanctify rather than the burn charges on Heiner, because Heiner won't have a lot of burn charges on himself. And then we go into the next fight. Next fight isn't too bad. We get more Garden of Thorns options. Again, a little bit late. I could have taken it on Bree and on Laia there, but I felt like we were getting up to 200 Thorns fairly consistently with our purple Garden of Thorns that we have on both heroes, so I wasn't too worried about it, except on maybe the hand check fight, because hand check is brutal. He is a destroyer of worlds, mainly the clones. The clones can deal damage through block. As you see right there, they killed Nenukil. I got a little bit further on my next attempt with hand check, but then he killed Heiner, and shortly after he does his double turn and kills Bree. And with Bree and Heiner out of the picture, there was no way we had enough damage. We actually end up dying there. Give us a ton of block as well as a ton of Thorns. Laia does end up dying, so we have to redo this entire fight from another stage. I'm going to skip ahead a bit. And here we go. So at the start of the fight here, you can see we had one more death in our fight. It was a little bit tough. I skipped ahead of most of that just so that you could see where we were having trouble. We have our Find Weakness and our Captivating Voice first turn. Find Weakness is going to be providing vulnerable throughout the fight for us. We do have to be... we have to be very quick at killing some of the clones, otherwise the clones are going to purge all of our Thorns, and we're going to be stuck in a loop where we lose Thorns, deal some damage to the clones, slowly kill them, do some damage to hand check, and then hand check kind of just overwhelms us later on. Mainly because we just don't have enough resistances on the entire team to survive for a long period of time, and we're not providing enough block as well. Hand check almost kills Heiner there, but Heiner's able to survive just barely through the Disintegrate, and thanks to the taunt that we were able to put on him this turn, he should be absorbing more of the clones' purge on Thorns, or the purge cards, so we have to be very careful with how we are applying taunt. We have a toolbox here to apply even more taunt to Heiner. It doesn't stack though, so it's not really like, there wasn't purpose in doing that other than providing Heiner with more block, which honestly is kind of impactful. We would like to apply a lot of Sanctify on this next turn if we can. That way Heiner can hit a clone up front and deal more damage. I don't think it's worth playing the purple Garden of Thorns this turn, if I remember correctly. Yeah, this is like a very important turn for me. So I play an attack there. We get our Purge the Wicked. That also is an attack. We save Garden of Thorns so that we can survive a little bit longer. We apply a ton of Sanctify to the front enemy, which is very, very nice for us. And then we get our shield, our, God, what is it called? Is it Shield Slam? No, it's our Bouncing Shield, whatever. I make sure that I finish off the front clones so that they don't heal from the other clones' heals. I wasn't sure if they would be getting rid of enough burn for that to matter. Probably didn't need to because Laia could handle it, but honestly the 9 damage wasn't going to do much to anybody else, so it was worth it for Heiner to get the kill on the front clone. Getting the kill on the front clone before they get to go on round 3 is, or was, yeah, it was round 3 or round 4? Anyways, that was very good for us. Shackling Handcheck also buys us a little bit more time to kill these clones because he's not really speeding them up. So, Nenukil's at 32 Thorns, Laia's at 32 Thorns, and Heiner's also at 32 Thorns. Bree's stacked up quite a bit because she's the only one who hasn't been purged, I believe. And we still have a Purple Garden of Thorns in Laia's deck. So with Steel Forge out, we're able to survive that turn from Handcheck, thanks to all the block that Heiner can provide. And we also have a Titanfall to provide more vulnerable and just a good chunk of damage to the clone in the back there. If we can kill the back clone this turn on round 4, we'll have a really good shot at getting through the rest of this fight, because we can double up our Garden of Thorns on all of our heroes with Laia, and then later with Heiner. Holy Fire's not doing quite enough damage, but I'm hoping that with Nenukil, with 9 energy and enough block cards, we can do enough here. We have Uproot as well to provide even more vulnerability. I don't do that early on because we just don't need it. And I can provide the vulnerable on Handcheck, which won't matter because I think it falls off at the starter turn. Yeah, starter turn, so didn't really matter, but Handcheck is finally starting to deal a lot of damage to himself thanks to the Garden of Thorns. Now we're up to almost 200 on everybody. You really need Purple Garden of Thorns to have Thorns be very impactful here. Otherwise, it takes so much longer to deal good damage. We're also low on Sanctify on Handcheck since it's been dispelled by the clones when they're doing their healing. God, the clones are just such a... There's such an anti-stall, fight tactic, which is still one of the worst options to go in this game, that it feels kind of just personal. Every time you're playing block or defense, you're like, oh cool, I'm playing these options that allow you to go, and Handcheck will just ruin your day, make these fights take hours. So I did probably spend an hour on Handcheck as well. I think Handcheck was actually the longest I spent fighting any one enemy, even longer than the Necromancer or the Doom Brigade that I fought in Act 4 in the middle. But in the end, taking out his clones fast enough is going to allow us to survive because they're not going to be purging our Fortify anymore, so we can actually stack up our damage. They're not purging our Thorns anymore, so when Handcheck is doing his AoE, he will be hurting himself significantly. And we can keep all the block on us each and every turn, which we were struggling to do earlier. And we absolutely need to do because Handcheck can deal 400 damage to all heroes in a single turn, especially in the later rounds. I think round 6 is where he really stops messing around. Round 3 is when he shows you what he's capable of, and then round 6 is he's not joking around anymore. he starts purging your Inspire and purging your Energize, and also just doing a ton of damage every round. So Nenukil's by far doing more damage now, I would say, with all the Thorns that he's applying, plus his ramped up plus 50 Fortify, and his defense cards dealing damage. So Handcheck does kill himself right there. He thankfully does AoE the entire team, so with 200 Thorns, we're able to get the victory on a very long fight. By comparison, the Archon is kind of a challenging fight-ish, but if you can kill the clone, again, fast enough, he only has one of them, you just have to focus on surviving. He does do damage through block on a single hero. I believe it's your front hero, but it will be whoever's taunting at the time as well, so you have to just be careful about who's taunting if you don't want the person with the most block taking the deal damage based on block hit. Other than that, the Archon is really not too threatening. He has a lot of AoE attacks, so if you get Thorns on yourself, you can really start to deal a ton of damage. They also nerfed the HP of both Handcheck and the Archon, so these fights got a tiny bit easier, though the HP wasn't really the problem. I would say if you're having trouble with these fights, if you're having trouble, I feel like you die long before you get to the 1000 HP that they cut off. Though there's probably some runs that'll matter for sure. When he switches to Darkness is when he does damage through your block, so as long as your front hero doesn't have the most block, you won't be taking that much damage. Also with enough resistances, which Heiner has now with his armor that has reprisal, he should be fine. And we can stack Thorns on ourselves, no problem. The clone has gone. I knew the clone would get one turn, so he'd purge our Inspire and Energize, but Now we can take him out. I figure it's probably safe to Garden of Thorns, since I plan on having the clone die to Nenukil on the very next turn. We do outspeed them. Bree having the +4 fast charges did save us on both the hand check fight and on this fight, because we were able to just outspeed on the turns that we needed to. And yeah, clone almost goes down there. I didn't calculate out the damage, of course, like when I'm like attacking the clone, so I was like a little bit nervous, but I knew Laia should be able to do at least something to the clone up front. So we'll be fine here. Just Holy Slash. I didn't know if I wanted to Holy Slash or get the extra damage from the enchantment that I had on myself, and then I went for the Holy Slash anyways because I thought the Zeal would give me a little bit of extra damage with the 47 burn I have on me. So I didn't think it was going to matter too much one way or the other. The Archon does get rid of the stacks on himself by, I think he gets rid of like 60% of the stacks on himself, so it is hard to get up the Sanctify and Burn charges, but he only does that during his third turn, his evasion round, which you're not doing too much damage to regardless. And thankfully the burn stacks on Nenukil are able to stack up very nicely. The Sanctify stacks, not so much with Laia, because she only has like a burst of Sanctify that she's really applying, and then she kind of does it with Excalibur later on. But Holy Fire is at least able to get a good amount of damage. You do have to play around Doom rather carefully as well. So we do have Martyrdom with Heiner. Heiner can use it on Bree, which he absolutely needs to, because Laia is not going to be drawing a Martyrdom. So Bree gets her Doom. We have like 400 block on all of our heroes here. Premium Meat's also nice to get every now and then, because it does raise our stacks of Thorns. And it does also raise our blocks charges. Premium Meat's just so good. We got a Reverberant Burst early on with Last Hope as well, so it's a little bit of extra damage for Nenukil, since it does deal damage 3 times. It will be stacking with the Lava Axe. It's, again, not a ton, but we're up to 200 burn on the Archon, and we're up to 69 Sanctify, so I do wish I was able to apply Sanctify a little bit more rapidly, but 100 is the max amount of charges anyways, so it's not like we're too far off. And we have enough to make sure he's taking a lot of damage. When he goes over to Darkmoor too, if he hits the whole team, he takes a fair bit of damage. But he didn't hit the whole team, he just had some bouncing hits there. I think it's the evasion round that he hits the whole team. God, yeah, he's also just very resistant. I think he has like 60% resistances on everything. So if you're not reducing his resistances with things like vulnerable or just the charges that like Sanctify or Burn can do, it can be very difficult. This is actually one of the reasons why I think physical damage is very hard to work on. I mean, just in general, physical damage just doesn't have the same amount of resistance cut through as the other elements do, which is kind of interesting, especially because so many enemies get reinforced, but I'm digressing. This fight's going pretty well. You can see the general game plan. Just play all our defenses. These blasts ramp up in damage. We have 50 Fortify on Nenukil. We have the Mass Dispel to keep our charges in check, because he will turn all Sanctify charges into Dark, and he likes to kind of chain a bunch of charges into one another. The extra fast charges we get here, again, let us go before the Archon. It's not like we're doing a whole ton. The Archon's more hurting himself than we are hurting him, which in that case, I feel like this is a successful Thorns run. This is about the most damage I've had Thorns do, I would say, outside of the one where I was going completely all in on, what's it called? Oh, interesting. Yeah, I can't save Nenukil and Bree, so I have to save Bree there with the Doom charges. Anyways, yeah, outside of my challenge run where I just tried not dealing any damage whatsoever with even with items like Cold Bone. Archon nearly kills himself there. I hope to save Nenukil, so Laia going fast thanks to the burn charges, and then Nenukil going right after. I've like, just give me defense cards, give me more damage cards like Burning Shot or Explosive Shot, I mean, and I should be okay. Reverberant Burst should be enough. And yeah, we get the kill with Nenukil. No one dies in that last fight, thankfully. We go up to 86,000, and yeah, here's our endgame stats as per usual. Challenging run overall, But a fun Thorns run. I would say that was honestly one of the better Thorns runs I've had, and just in terms of the cards that I got. Getting the purple Thorns is great. Laia does end up beating Nenukil in damage, but you can see the Thorns damage was like 17k on Nenukil. Yeah, that's really going to be it. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you had a good time. I certainly did when I was doing this run. And I will see you all next time. Later.